I'm Sean from S&J Automotive. We've had the business running now for 28 years. 24 of them we've been working almost exclusively on Subarus, beginning with the WXs all the way through to all of the latest platforms. Have a staff of 8 in total here at S&J Automotive. And today we'll be talking about one of our race cars, the SJ22B. Thanks to Bosch Motorsport Australia, we're here today talking about one of my favourite subjects, the SJ22B. It's our second in-house race car. We've got a much higher platform car but used for hill climb racing as well. That's the SJ1000, a lot of you would be already aware of. That's driven by my son. This one we built for me to drive. We acquired the car in mid-2020 and devised a plan to bring it up to the specification that it is today without affecting its heritage, I suppose, more than anything. Like, all of the original parts were taken off the car, catalogued, put away. The parts on the car, not only are they bolt-on, but they are also in keeping with the theme of the car, the World Rally theme of the car, the era of the car within reason. AP brakes, RCM parts, Roger Clark Motorsport, a lot of engine hardware from RCM on the car, RCM cams, a whole heap of other parts sourced from all of our suppliers to bring together a nice 266 kilowatts at the wheels, and very, very tractable. Likewise with the transmission, we stuck with the 22B gear ratios, the very commonly known Group N gear ratios with PPG dog gear set in there. And with the wheels and tyres and the brakes, again the APs, 17-inch wheels, 17 by 9s they are, 255 tyres. It is just the ultimate little package for me to drive. I think if any of us remember back to the 1997-98 era, the 22B was already iconic from the World Rally cars. Each manufacturer in at the start of 1997 was able to come out with what was then called a WR car, WRC. As such, whilst the WRC was already being run for many, many years before that was the first year they were called WR cars. A very limited production run, but they already, in magazines in Australia, they were already a phenomenon in 1998-99. So I suppose the passion for us, because that's about when we began working on Subarus wholly and solely here at S&J, I suppose the passion for us was ignited all the way back then when these cars were brand new, and it was 8 years later that we acquired our first one. And not that we're looking to collect them or anything like that, or take them out of anyone else's reach. It's just that we really didn't want to modify that first one, and this one came up, and it's nice to have the standard and the S&J version. The key feature with the 22B is the bodywork. That's the outstanding feature, I suppose, as well as the 2.2 litre engine. So the 40mm extra wheel arches allow us to run the 9s very, very comfortably. The MCA coilovers are GC bolt-in coilovers. All the pickup points are very similar. So most of the parts, again, it's a very modular car, so most of the parts are direct bolt-in. But furthermore, on the differences with the 22B, those close gear ratios, they have a DCCD centre diff, large R180 LSD rear diff, 4.4 ratio, alloy lower control arms in the front, and from factory they have the 4-pot, 2-pot brake combo. So they're pretty much the best of everything at the time available. They didn't have a roof scoop in them from factory. They opted not to put that in, but other than that, they've pretty much got all of the features in 1998 that you could get from all of the best of the JDM cars, top specification. I guess for me, there's two things that heavily attract me to driving this car or cars very similar to this. One is Subaru's symmetry. You all would have heard about Subaru's advertising of the symmetrical all-wheel drive system. It's very much a thing. The engine's low. The engine and driveline are very simple and straightforward. It's a very, the centre diff, it may appear complex even with the electronic centre diffs. It's actually a very, very straightforward layout. It makes for, again, lower centre of gravity and a very unique driving and handling experience. The second part to for me is the emotional I guess, more of an emotional connection with the car. The JDM cars just feel amazing inside. Especially these limited production cars have a part suede interior. They just have that super comfortable interior, which we've left most of it in this vehicle. So that combined with the dynamics of the vehicle, the 255 tyres, the suspension that the car's on, I don't think there's anything better to drive, to be honest, especially in a sprint type event. The car launches like an absolute rocket. There's not much that would take off the line quicker than it, with the launch control system in the car and the dog box. I don't think you would pass the experience that this car gives from a small to medium car driver's appeal. An original 22B block. RCM sent us over an original 22B block, so I wasn't using mine. So therefore we removed this car's original engine and transmission, put them on display in our own barn as such. And RCM absolutely insisted that we use an original 22B block but modified. It's got at 2.35 litres, that is simply using a later model 2.5 litre crankshaft in a 2.2 litre block, factory closed deck block being a 22B block. And use the Omega pistons, which is the Roger Clark Motorsport branded piston with a heavy duty conrod. We've chosen to go for Motec M130 engine management along with a Motec C127 dash. They work hand in hand, as many people will know. The car is wired and configured with a bunch of Bosch sensors as well as Bosch fuel injectors and fuel pump as well. The system just works perfectly hand in hand. The C127 is placed directly where the original cluster was. Where that choice was made, it was a little bit of a difficult decision because we did want to, for the authenticity of the car, leave its original cluster in some regards, but you cannot be having that dash right in eye line with all of its functions and features. We've got the fuel gauge, the DCCD all working through that, the indicators and high beams, and everything functions through that dash. It naturally dims with the lights on, so it's very, very user friendly. We also interestingly use the C127 to control the handbrake light switch using the vehicle speed sensor, so we can actually have the handbrake triggered so the DCCD opens up under a certain speed, so the car becomes more compliant for turn-in. And that's excellent for exiting a handbrake turn or something where we're 65 rear, 35 front upon an exit of a handbrake until 30 k's an hour, and everything locks up for the then previous choice of the DCCD controller. So just another little technological feature that's still basic in some regards, I suppose. And again, with the sensors and the systems, this car is still a basic car by today's standards in some regards, and that's the way we wanted to build it. It does have a CO2 spray on it, as you'll see here. That's just because the type of events we do, the car is sitting in form up for a long time, so we give the intercooler a reasonable squirt before we form up, and then we have the ECU pulsing it approximately 1/5 of the time, so it's just a mild spray on the intercooler to help aid the scoop as well. The Bosch sensors are extremely useful to give information back to the ECU. Super fast acting. They're a pressure and a temperature sensor in one, and keeps amount of plumbing and wiring down in the engine bay. We chose with the fuel system, we want to keep the car relatively simple, as in lack of surge tanks, lack of separately mounted extra fuel pumps and fuel lines running through the cabin. One, for mounting points, we wanted to drill as least amount of holes in this body shell as possible. And two, for the smells and the weight and everything else that goes with it. So we're able to use the Bosch 225L ethanol friendly pump in the tank, combined with a genuine Spec C fuel reservoir that's on the bottom of the fuel pickup. We're running that fuel straight through an aftermarket fuel filter here, and then into the Bosch 1500cc injectors. And at 266 kilowatts of the wheels, which is about 450 engine horsepower, this car has got plenty of fuel headroom left in it. And again, the Motec system takes care of all the strategies if there were any leanness from a fuel surge or whatever else. Any lack of pressure momentarily, the Motec system takes care of that. We've got heavily ported 98 STI heads with RCM cams. They're a 272 cam with aftermarket valve springs and valve train components. We've gotten rid of the shim underbucket that the early STIs had and used a later model design of a shimless bucket. That's very useful for anyone to do that's using any motorsport features like anti-lag or flat shift or anything like that. Launch control, because they'll often bounce shims out. Other than that, the engine's relatively basic. Obviously no AVCS, very straightforward like the early ones were, with the 1500cc injectors, and yeah, there's plenty of headroom in the whole lot of it. So 22 psi boost is what we run to achieve that, and that does it easily. SJ22B and SJ1000, S&J Automotive, are all accessible on the internet via Facebook, Instagram, on the web, YouTube. There's a bunch of in-car videos up from this car, from SJ1000, from our motorsport over all of the years.